Hello, welcome to Fempreneur True Confessions podcast.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I am Laura, um, or Oda, owner of ODAA, and we are a virtual assistant project management agency that is here to help you behind the scenes get all those things done so that you can grow your business confidently.
I'm Angelique with Lady Powerhouse Solutions, and we do project and event management for women who are on fire and lighten up the world with their passion and drive. And we have a team of fabulous women that help them do that in the most authentic way possible. Laura and I do really similar things, and yet we have found a fantastic what the word power comes up
Mhm.
um, in collaborating and supporting each other. And yeah, it's been really cool.
Yeah, I love it. Being able to support each other and normalize that and really, understand what it is and be true to ourselves along with being true to others in that real authentic way. So we definitely
Yeah.
love it.
Yes. And so that's why we started the podcast. If this is your first time here, this podcast is a result of us not finding a place to see other women facing their challenges in their businesses as entrepreneurs and modeling that. So we're like, everybody's talking about all the great successes and this is how you get to six figures or seven figures or whatever number you are trying to. And we're going to talk about that today. I can't wait. Um, but so we're like, well, what about like, am I the only one that's up until the wee hours of the morning trying to get all the things done as a solopreneur? And, in the beginning, we all start out just doing all the things.
Right.
So we're here to give a platform for women to share their stories and model that no, you are not alone and the different struggles that we all go through because we all have different challenges and um, you know, failure is just feedback. I love saying that because it's an awesome reminder. It's not a personal, like this is what I see in my mind when failure is mentioned. Like it's, that I for those listening and not watching, I'm wagging my finger, you know,
Yeah.
that, like you've done something wrong. You haven't done anything wrong. In fact, you've done something right. You've figured out what doesn't work. Let's move on to figuring out what does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That ability to really make that trust. We were discussing in the green room before, like being able to trust who we're working with and what we're doing and collaborating and have that freedom to just be like, hey, look, I need some support. Can we do this and not feel like anyone's lacking or there's a problem or anything else. That ability to have that freedom to get the support that you need and really be able to trust the people that you're around. You and I are true fans of each other's businesses and what we're doing and how we think and how we're growing. And we've become quite big cheerleaders for each other. So
Yeah.
having that support, having that tribe, your people, is it's so much easier and so much nicer. Like, I've
Yeah.
always been someone who loves that collaboration and connection. So
Yeah.
it feels great. 'Cause coming into business for me was, I kind of got screwed over real quick early on and was just like, well, where am I supposed to turn to get some kind of assistance? I knew I was going to need the support. Like, at least I knew that enough about myself. So it's nice to know that there's a way to do this and not harm anybody else in the process because we don't need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we don't. I think it's been, a conditioning that when women enter the corporate world, especially, not just the workforce, but when
Yeah.
we started moving up the ladder and there
Mhm.
were few positions for women,
Yeah.
and it became this, very catty, very competitive environment. So instead of being like, hey, how can I help the best person get the position? It was about me, right?
Right.
Um, and I love that by collaborating with each other, we're strengthening each other's businesses.
Hmm.
We are strengthening our relationship and and it's been a very positive, not that we haven't had points where like we each had a come to Jesus,
Right.
with each other, but keeping the communication open has really been um valuable, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and learning and practicing that
Hmm.
um, in a safe space has been really cool too. So, anyway, today we're here to talk about life wealth. We talk a lot here about the abundance mindset, and a
Hmm.
lot of it is about the financial side. But today we're going to talk about abundance in creativity, love, and emotional wellness with our guest. And
Yep.
Laura, would you like to introduce our guest today?
Sure. Today we have Liz Hodge, and she holds a master's degree in vocal performance from San Jose State University and is a certified rapid transformational therapy practitioner and hypnotherapist. Wow. For more than 30 years, she has also been a successful vocal and speech coach for small business owners and entrepreneurs. Liz leverages her extensive background in vocal performance, teaching, and coaching, as well as to empower women and individuals in the LGBTQ plus communities. Her mission is to help them fully express their unique genius through their voices and to reshape the culture of speaking by elevating voices that have been previously silenced or overlooked. Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you. It's awesome to be here. I'm so excited.
And Liz, I forgot to ask you where you're beaming in from.
Los Angeles.
Okay, all right. So you're out on the East
Uh-huh.
Coast,
Yeah, I'm on the
West
West
coast.
Coast.
Coast. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's been a long weekend.
Yeah, the East Coast.
So we I did some traveling this weekend and I'm a little tired. We got in very late last night. But one of the
Uh,
things that ran across on social media, there was this meme that says, uh, "I'm I'm already exhausted," or next week has already exhausted me, or I'm already exhausted from next week, or something like that. And it's like,
yeah.
yeah, man, we're just kind of going into it that way, but that's
Right.
okay.
And it's only Monday.
Right.
Yeah.
We had pretty
So
eventful weeks last week. So it was one of those we ended up, you end October and you're into November and then it's already just kind of flying at you and you're like, okay, whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
It's been going so fast. And it's like we're in the holidays already. We're always already talking about that. So
yeah, yeah. Uh, another social media thing. There was this guy, and he's handing out Halloween candy, and the subtitle is, hey, the minute the last trick or treater is gone, and he immediately pulls off the Halloween costume, and underneath is all the Christmas.
the Santa. Yeah.
We're just skipping Thanksgiving. We're going straight to Christmas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Um,
Earlier and earlier. Yeah.
I love Christmas though. It
Yeah,
is,
me too.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
would love to hear how you came to this really cool, um, not a revelation, but just like this mindset of,
Uh-huh.
life wealth, uh, being wealthy and being creative and being wealthy in love and being wealthy in emotional wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I love what you said though, because as we move into maturity, we we become more focused on these less tangible aspects of abundance.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to hear
Yeah.
more about that.
Yeah, I think part of it is my own journey. Obviously going through I mean, I've never been a rich person. I've had a successful studio and it's all the ups and downs that go along with
Mhm.
that. And as you guys know, as an entrepreneur, it's constantly going up and down. It's dynamic. Let's put it
Yes.
that way. And so, but as I've gotten older and I've kind of really thought more about my own voice, my own singing, my own creating, the business that I'm creating now, um, those types of things, as well as my spiritual life. I'm a Zen practitioner, and so I, have a group that I meditate with online, and we get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we go.
You're one of those people.
Yeah, I'm one of those. Yeah, not to say that I don't take a nap after.
Oh,
I love my naps.
Not always. I've been really trying to break that habit and actually be productive, because I found that those early morning hours are really productive for me. But anyway,
Laura's been teaching me how to nap.
Yeah, it's
afternoons get difficult, so I always plan for at least 20 minutes in there where I can, lay down and do whatever.
For sure. For sure. So, but as I've moved along and just kind of realized that it's the creativity, my family, my friends, the community that I orbit around, and the creativity of teaching. Every day is a new day. Every student is different. Every lesson is different. And so it's provides a lot of creativity as far as kind of the work that I actually do. And plus it's music. Most of it is, I'm doing music right now. So working with musicians, really getting them into their storytelling, not only teaching them vocal technique, but also really focusing in on the storytelling of what they're doing. And that kind of led me to working with speakers and their voices, because I had a lot of people coming to me asking for singing lessons, but what they really wanted was to improve their voices for speaking. And a lot of them were more mature women who had gone through kind of changes in their life. And as I've gone through my perimenopause, menopause, and I'm now postmenopausal, how voices have changed. And so that's also been part of my journey, is my voice changing over time, and being able to accept that as a creative person, as a musician and a singer. So that's also been part of the richness of kind of the wisdom that grows from these different areas of abundance or wealth within your life. So it's really kind of being not just focused in, because I think during our 20s, 30s, and 40s, we're building, right? We're kind of we're building, and as we kind of mature and we're kind of moving out of that building, it's kind of like a maintaining kind of a thing, and then we kind of we're on the return trip, to kind of
I'm also seeing, I don't know if you're seeing this, but I'm also seeing the younger generations are grasping this less tangible abundance mindset a little earlier than we did. Like you were saying, like we're so focused on achieving and obtaining and all of those things. But I have connections of people that are younger than me, that are maybe even younger than my children. And I find myself, oh my God, how can they do that? Like financially, how can they travel so much? Like how that's so irresponsible. And I have to stop myself, because it isn't irresponsible. They've learned very early on what we've taken decades to learn, which is life is more about achieving these tangible assets, a house, the dog, the kids, all the things. And they're wanting lived experience.
Right.
And actually they're ahead of the curve. Don't you think?
Yeah, oh, definitely. There's definitely a wisdom in that. And I'm really not sure what it is. I mean, I look at my daughters. I have two wonderful adult daughters, and a lot of times they guide me, as kind of what's going on. And it seems like they're so far ahead of where I was at their age, and as far as kind of their social maturity and kind of what their the lived experiences that they're having. Yeah. So it's really interesting that the wealth that these people are attaining. I'm not talking about financial. I'm talking about
Right.
life wealth.
Yeah.
The focus on wellness and the focus on love and communication and community is so much more important, I think, now than, well,
Yeah.
it was always important to us, but I don't think, like you said, I don't think we kind of realized that until
We didn't
later.
prioritize the same. And I don't
Yeah.
think there's anything wrong with it.
Right.
No, it's just a very different way of approaching it. And also, speaking for myself, it's kind of the generation that I came from. I came from um, parents that were grew up during the Depression and went through World War II, and I'm aging myself, but that's okay. But, so it was a very different thing, get a steady job, get married, have kids, work for IBM for 30 years, and stuff
Yes.
like that, that's
Yeah,
the
they're not
way.
buying into that anymore.
No,
And not
exactly.
only that, the younger generation's like, I don't want to work for anyone else. I would just want to work for
I'm going to
myself.
work
I
for
want to do
me.
my own thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I found that so many more businesses are heart-centered, are collaborative, and
Yes.
it's really changing the landscape of the way people are working. And I think part of that is from kind of a result of the COVID situation. People kind of figuring
Yeah.
out, I've got to do it. Nobody else is going to do it for me, and
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing, and just kind of gaining that wisdom so much earlier than I did.
What do
Yeah.
you think?
Well,
And you can only speak for yourself, and I can only speak for myself. But for those that are out there that are younger than us,
Mm-hmm.
and are willing to listen and learn from our, mistakes,
Uh-huh.
what was the turning point? What was the catalyst that you were like, you know what? I'm tired of focusing on these tangible things. I want more of this or the other thing. Was there a moment
Mm-hmm.
or an event for you?
Oh gosh, I think it was a process, for sure.
Yeah,
There was
absolutely.
a marriage that was ended up not well, so the really having my marriage kind of dissolve over a long period of time, and we're actually being in a place where I felt like I didn't belong. I was teaching in elementary school for many, many, many years, and in different positions, and because I always wanted to teach, and it was kind of a long run up into that. I mean, I was teaching singing, of course, for many years, and then I decided to get my credential, and I got, I was in the classroom for many years, teaching music as well, and loving the teaching part of it, but realizing I was in totally the wrong environment
Mm-hmm.
for my sensitive. I'm a highly sensitive person. I'm very empathic, and so I had a really hard time dealing
Yeah.
with that. And it really kind of drove me in the direction of depression. I was suffering from clinical depression. I had a difficult time. It was a long story, but I ended up in my union rep's office having a meltdown, and she said, you need to take some time off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I took some time off, got diagnosed with clinical depression and generalized anxiety from PTSD, and took a lot of time off, went back, did some teaching, and got fired eventually. But it was probably because I realizing one day, just walked into the classroom, I was a substitute at that point, just realized I can't do that. I don't want this.
Yeah.
I can't do this another day. And and that I got fired. But it it was kind of like the best thing that ever happened
Mhm,
to me in
mhm.
a way, because it really made me focus on my business, on the creativity of it, and the kind of wealth that I wanted to build. Not just necessary the financial part of it, but it was kind of the whole life as a whole
Right.
human being, rather than just kind of a, an ATM, thing. So,
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
uh,
we forget that when we talk about that and the abundance and the wealth and stuff like that, that it isn't, the measure of that is not just money. It really
right.
is, what is your quality of life? When my son was younger, we did a lot of traveling, and sometimes we took him, sometimes we didn't. But he got
Right.
to experience that. And, for us as children, it was when you work and you do all the things, it'll happen later in life when you get to love and experience all those things.
Yeah.
Or when you have kids, like you'll do like the 1 year or one time a year family vacation that blood, sweat, and tears goes in to get to, kind of thing. And it's like, why does it have to be that way? And our
Right.
son, he'll go do whatever. He can go run and play, and he doesn't have the thought where it has to be this one way. Like doesn't
Right.
have to be marriage. It doesn't have to be kids. It can be if that's what you want, and it doesn't
yeah,
have to be now.
yeah.
It
Right.
really is just on your own time. I find it funny that you're like, it wasn't a good spot and then you got fired. And I, multiple times in my life, have been like, I really swear that the universe had been pushing it. And
Uh,
then since I wasn't paying attention, it was like, all right, we're just going to go ahead and let this happen. And you always feel that initial devastation, like, why? And then later, like, oh, thank God.
oh,
Right? Like,
Yeah,
exactly.
no.
Yeah. Universe was definitely, hammering me over the head, yelling at me. Yeah.
same. I mean,
And like kids, we're like, I don't want to hear it.
when
But it's
I
a steady
decided,
paycheck. Oh.
yeah, yeah, but the same situation. It's like, and I can look back and see it's happened before as well.
Mhm.
Like this idea of getting fired, again, negative. That means something's wrong with you. Not necessarily. It could be just not a good fit.
Right.
It could be people change, companies
Yeah.
change,
Hmm.
companies change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, but the same thing happened to me. Like I got fired, but it worked to
Hmm.
my advantage because I was one planning on leaving anyway.
Yeah.
Two, it gave me a jump start financially and time wise on
Hmm.
my business. Um, so, and that's another thing. Let's talk about time freedom as a measure of wealth and
Hmm.
abundance,
For
right?
sure.
Well, Laura Reagan was a guest a few months ago, and that's what we talked about, having the freedom to be like, you know what? I need to go rescue a cat, or, uh, and I need to go save my my
Hmm.
little fur soulmate's life, and having the ability to pack up and leave, work
Hmm.
on the road. That's time freedom. That
Yeah.
is having the freedom to do that.
Mhm.
Whereas when you work for a company, if you don't have those kind of benefits,
Right.
you can't do those things.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Especially not at like last minute. Like you can't just
Hmm.
one day just decide this is what we're going to do,
yeah,
or I
yeah,
need to
Right.
take this time right now. And yeah, you
Hmm.
can from time to time, but don't let it be an often thing. And
Hmm.
don't have little ones, because they never are on anyone's time schedule. They're always in
They're on their own.
nothing could ever be planned in our life. Like, well, couldn't you have
Yeah.
planned that? No, I couldn't have planned the emergency room
right.
or the cold that came with 30 kids in the
Right.
classroom and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Like, you can't
Exactly.
plan for those things in life. You can
Yeah.
plan to know you're going to need it, but when
Mhm.
is never the option. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the shifts is that people are living more in the moment. People are more present. I think there's
Hmm.
more um, advice or education out there for us to be more present, be more in the moment, more mindfulness. And if I don't know if you guys are a fan of Eckhart Tolle, but a big fan of his.
Yeah.
And his whole thing is the power of now. And I really learned a lot from that, is just being present and really living in the moment. Not that you're not planning, but what we're doing now is we're doing it 100%. So
You know what I realized?
100%.
Yes, was that especially as a mom,
Mhm.
we're being
yeah, for
pulled in
sure.
so many directions. I don't
Mhm.
remember so much because I was not present.
Yeah.
I missed but my daughters, I'm, you know, fortunate like you, I have adult daughters that uh will remind me, you know, they'll say, "Hey, do you remember this? It just happened. It just happened this weekend. Mom, do you remember this?" And I'm like, "I so don't remember that. I
Right.
so don't remember that." It's not because we don't love our kids and we just don't pay attention. It's because at the same time I'm trying to do the mom thing, I'm also trying to
Mhm.
think about what's for dinner tomorrow, what bills need to be paid, where's the
Yep.
cat, you know, do I have childcare? Do you know, is their costume made?
Yep.
Are they do they have do I need to renew their lunches? You know, like there's so
Oh,
many things that we're juggling, especially if we're
oh yeah.
working
Yeah.
outside the home, but if we're have our own career, or God
Yeah.
forbid you have a hobby.
Right.
How dare you?
Hobbies weren't a thing. Like we were discussing creativity and what would you do like for fun. Now, I was a singer for a long time and I do love to just kind of be in my house and do that. But outside of that, I'm like, I lost my creativity niche side, you know, that exploration years ago because the
Mhm.
time for that was given to everything else. And
Everything
there
else.
really
Yeah.
was no real ability. So it's like now going back to, well, what is the creative stuff? Do you even like this? Do you like to do what you thought you liked to do? And
Right.
it's very interesting now. Like, oh wow, I have this time where you hear about empty nesters and like, what are we gonna do with all our time? And I'm like, figure out if you actually loved all those things you walked away from because you just didn't have
Right.
time, not because you didn't like them.
Right.
And yeah, it's so interesting now to kind of think about that. And you know,
Mhm.
that experience of yeah, we forget a whole bunch of things and then all of a sudden you now get to focus on yourself and you're like, well, I don't have a
Who
clue who I am at this point, so we'll just figure this
exactly?
out as we go.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And I
especially
love
as a single mom, I was raising the girls and going to graduate school to get my credential, working full time,
mhm,
and raising them and all the other things, and
doing all the things.
doing all the things, and you know, and and I think by the end of my marriage, I had just totally looked in the mirror one day and just thought, I don't know who are you?
Yeah, we
Who
lose
are you?
touch with who we are
And
because
yeah,
we're identified as
yeah,
mom, wife, career
right,
person, whatever.
exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I think that was a huge tipping point for me. Just kind of, I need to really turn everything on its head, basically. And and that really helped a lot. Just kind of those tipping points that are so painful in the moment, but
Mhm. And one of
they
them
sure give you
is
direction. They give you
for
clarity for sure.
yeah, yeah. But this, and you talked about this too, this moving from perfectionism to
Mm,
knowing you're good enough, that what you do is good enough, that what you have to offer is good enough.
Mhm.
And you used RTT for that. So
hmm
I would love for you to share that, you know, your journey from perfectionism to knowing that you're good enough.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the tools you used was the RTT and hypnotherapy.
Yeah, for sure. So um, unfortunately, I have some members of my family that were narcissistic, and so I really got my validation through my appearance and
Mm.
also from my vocal performances. So that's kind of how I got any kind of validation as a person. Um, and that carried on for many, many years, all the way really into adulthood. And kind of as I got older and realized that I was really kind of punishing myself a lot for not being perfect, not having the perfect vocal performance, or, you know, in the classroom, not having the perfect lesson plan, or, and just putting a lot of pressure on myself to be something that is impossible to be, you know, because perfectionism, you can really view it as an ever moving goalpost. You'll never get there.
Right, right.
And so the thing is that my students, a lot of them women, you know, here again, really having this perfectionist bent, and me telling them, giving them the advice, you'll never be perfect. You're working with your body. It's not a perfect instrument. It's not like we're playing the piano or picking up a flute and pressing buttons or whatever. You're working with anatomy. You're working with the body. And so you'll never be perfect. And one day I thought, I really got to take my own advice. You know?
Isn't that something? How we dish it out? Yeah. So freely. It's like you know this and that and the other thing, and our life's you know, hotness
Really,
express.
I'm a hot mess, you know. So one of the things that I realized, that it was really giving my students, but also myself, a lot of what we call performance anxiety, right? You stage fright.
Yeah.
And really hesitant to perform, or in some cases to speak, to give their talks or speeches. But mostly with my singing teacher and with lessons, or my students and myself, just really finding ways to mitigate that. And so I tried several different things, and I kind of stumbled across rapid transformational therapy and hypnotherapy. They go together, to really kind of dig out the root causes of why some of those things happen. So kind of digging into my own subconscious, and really kind of digging out things that I didn't remember, traumas that I don't remember, that came up. I was really able to uncover, kind of bring into the light those causes that were hidden to me before, because I couldn't understand, why do I, you know, I'm well prepared, I'm well trained, I know what I'm doing, I've done this a million times before. Why am I still, you know, hoping that the electricity goes out in the theater so we can't perform, you know? That was always my thought, you know. It was like, you know, I hope nobody shows up or whatever. And so just kind of finding that for myself, I was able to mitigate as much of that as I can, just finding those root causes. And that's what I wasn't finding in these other methods that I still use to bring my students and my clients from left brain to right brain. But it wasn't going deep enough. So I really wanted to find the root causes in my clients, why those fears were coming up. What were the root causes? Because if you can uproot those, then that problem doesn't exist anymore. You can find a way of approaching it from a different angle, from a mental point of view, but also emotional point of view. Because, you know, here again, as I mentioned before, we're working with the human body, and the voice is one of our primary ways of expressing ourselves, and through speech, but also through singing. And with singing, you're talking about music, and then you start talking about talent, and that's another thing, you know. And you know, that's another pressure that, you know, we feel. It's like, oh, I'm not talented in that area, you know, or I'm not good enough in that area because don't feel talented enough, or my voice doesn't go high enough, or it's too low, or it's changing, I don't like it anymore. You know, those types of things can really get into our way of just enjoying the freedom of vocalization, whether it's speaking or singing.
Yeah. We had a thing in our family because our whole family sings. And
Mm.
so, like, when you would come together for like birthday parties, or we would just break out in random song, and the whole thing was is to purposely sing off key, make it sound like the most horrible. And that way nobody felt nervous. We all made a complete ass of ourselves, and that was perfect. Like, it was a great time, and it helped a lot of times when we were dealing with stage fright, or getting ready to go on stage, and you have all those jitters that are going on and stuff. And yeah, so we would just have those moments where we all sang off key, and it would just sound the worst. The dogs would get involved. It was just funny.
Right.
And then definitely helped relieve that pressure of, if that's what happens on
Hmm.
stage, that's
Yeah.
the worst. That's
Oh,
it,
yeah. Yeah.
And I never went, but I have terrible stage fright now, and I won't go back on stage, or I haven't. But it was an experience with listening to somebody else who's was
Mhm.
so magically beautiful, like her voice and stuff, that the immediate concern in my own world came in, like,
Mm.
wow, why would I even, like, I don't want to step up there with her. Like, I don't want to do this with her, because she was magical on her own.
Right.
And it quickly brought me off stage, but it helped because I realized then that I didn't enjoy spotlight like that. I
Mhm.
like to be behind the scenes. I like to be the quiet one. But as a
Yeah.
family, we were always on stage. And so it was interesting for me how being pushed to that helped me realize that I didn't want to be on stage. I've had friends who do it too, and I'm like, you go ahead with that spotlight. I don't want
Mhm.
don't. I love being behind. And people say all the time, like, you step up into the spotlight. It's like, I've been there. I truly know myself. But I
Uh-huh.
don't mind being that one behind the scenes that's quiet, that no one really quite knows. And that's perfectly fine with me, because the person that I'm supporting is getting what they really love. They're getting that spotlight, they're getting that accolades. And it's very interesting to me how you can go from one or the other, but again,
Mhm.
push, like, this is what we did, and so this is, as a family, who we all were, and you kind of do what your family says, and then being able to be like, I don't want to, and I don't like being
Yeah.
behind the scenes, and that kind of thing. So again, the
Yeah.
universe finds its way to push you to be like, you're done. It's okay being done. you
Yeah.
know
Oh, yeah, for
yeah.
sure. One of the things that grows out of, or one of the things that kind of goes alongside perfectionism is comparison. We end up
Mm,
comparing ourselves to, like you with that other singer, or,
mhm,
me with, if I was singing classic, I would, think Jesse Norman, or jazz, I'd think, Sarah Vaughan, it's just kind of
mhm,
music theater. I'm thinking Audra McDonald, one of some of these great voices, that are out there. And, oh, I can never do that, or anything like that. But that's a killer. The
mhm.
comparison, perfectionism kills your creativity. It kills innovation. Because that's risk taking, and that's kind of what you do when you're on stage in a live performance. That's the nature of live performances. Our mistakes will be made. I mean,
Oh,
I've,
yeah.
And
I've
I
done.
would love to redefine perfection
Okay.
as something besides, the way we
Mhm.
interpret it now.
Yeah.
Perfection is you showing up. Perfection
Mm-hmm.
is you doing your magic, whatever your
Hmm.
zone of genius is, whatever
Yeah,
it that lights your fire. That's perfection,
I
right?
love
I
that. Yeah.
yes.
Mhm,
Um,
Yeah.
so one of the things I do want to touch on was this, this idea of the power of collaborating versus
Mm.
over competition.
Mhm.
And you said you had a story you wanted to share where you supported another female entrepreneur, um, who might, somebody will be, but that's your competition. Why would you do that?
Right. Yeah. So she's a storyteller. She's a story marketer. She is a speaker. And we kind of work in the same space. And she had a problem with her voice, the voice itself. She had what we call tension dysphoria, which sounds awful, but really what it is it kind of interrupts the flow of the voice because there's so much tension in here. So I was able to work with her, give her some vocal techniques, work with her content, kind of rehearsing, kind of getting her confidence back up, because she had just kind of lost all her confidence as far as speaking. And it was really painful for her because she had all these wonderful stories. She had a great service that she offers. And, it was just really stopping her dead in her tracks. So it was really wonderful to be able to work with her and get her voice back to where she needed it to be so she could feel confident in herself. And her communication style, because she was kind of like one of these, really one of the first people that I ever heard of who mentioned a signature talk, that you need to have a signature talk. And I thought it was a new concept to me, and this was several years ago. So she was kind of on the forefront of kind of that, bringing that out, that you really need to have a story. You need to have a transformative stories that's going to move your audience, and so that's so it was really wonderful to be able to help her kind of get all that back, because she had such great energy, and it was just really great to be with her. So
And I think we kind of forget, like, you can be the expert in something. It doesn't mean you stop learning. And you could find where somebody just coming into something can teach you something, and then the shock comes in. Because I think, especially in arts and in performance and things like that, people think they get to a point where, no, I know it all. And that's a really hard way to be, where it's like, no, like, you should still be learning every day. And you might be the expert and the go-to, but who's your go-to?
That's the three most dangerous world, I think, in the English language. I know it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
But we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. Right. And that's the thing, is I'm constantly learning. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm committed to learning. Obviously, as an educator, it's a lifelong educator. I'm something that I feel deeply about, and I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly learning new vocal techniques. I'm constantly learning about how the voice works. The latest, I try to stay on the cutting edge of vocal science, which is a fairly new science, and how the vocal folds work and how the whole system works. I've been lately working on learning more about the mature female voice, going through the hormonal and physical changes of perimenopause through postmenopause. I've also been working on gender affirming language and also vocal techniques for LGBTQ community. And I'm constantly learning, always. There's always something.
It's important.
It's in my field. And lately, I've been watching. I'm an art appreciator. I'm not like a painter or anything like that. But just kind of learning about different things like art restoration has just been, and art history has been kind of a something I've kind of interested in learning about. And just it's just kind of not in my field of expertise, and thank goodness for that, because you know what I mean. You can kind of get buried and go down rabbit holes, and for sure going down the research and literature and practice holes, you can just you can lose yourself. So it's like, find something else to kind of clear the air.
So before we go today, I'd love to hear and sometimes I throw this in, so this is off the cuff for you. The one piece of advice that you would give yourself looking back, that one piece of advice that you would give yourself, or maybe somebody who's just starting out and you want to save them a lot of heartache.
I think I would say to myself, be kind to yourself.
Mm.
Be kind. Love yourself. And I know it's kind of sounds cliche, but there really wasn't much love there. Not a lot of compassion. So self-compassion, and that it's not selfish to be self-loving, to be self-kind, to be self-compassionate. Because if you're not that for yourself, it's more difficult to be that, to show up that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Show up for yourself. I think that would probably be one of the pieces of that I would advise is show up for yourself.
Nice. That's a good one. And you know, and I think that it's probably one that many would agree with, right?
Absolutely.
Like so much that we're our own worst critic. We are the hardest on ourselves when we realize somebody said it in some coaching program, someone said, I want you to think about the way that you talk to yourself, the kinds of things you say. Now imagine saying that to your own child.
Right.
You would never in a million years think of saying those words
Exactly.
to anyone you loved.
Mhm.
Then why are you speaking to yourself that way? And it was just such this wake up call of, oh, dang, she right.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the
Yeah,
words
that's
that we say to ourselves. And this is one of the things that I learned from rapid transformational therapy is the way we speak to ourselves goes in those internal voices.
Mhm.
Those are the ones that are the most powerful. It's the things that we say to ourselves. So if we're flipping the script on that and we're saying, I am enough, I am powerful, I am, I'm in touch with my body, I am in touch with my creativity, I'm creative, I'm wise, whatever you feel like you need to be saying to yourself, the more you say that, especially when you're in a relaxed state, is more powerful than anything anybody else can say to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love
and
that. That's perfect.
Yeah.
You get caught up in the expectations, or we set expectations. I remember setting them with my son, like this is what's expected. And then at one point, especially around school, and then finally I got to a point where I'm like, just learn enough to pass the freaking test, because this isn't going to matter later, and all of this is going to change. We're going to teach different things, but can you just do us all a favor? Our only expectations, you learn enough to pass the freaking test, because that's what you've got to do for this state or for this. Like that's the rule there, and what we have to follow so we don't go to jail. Can you just learn enough to pass the test? And then we cannot discuss it past that point. I don't have to hear about it. I already know what they're teaching or doing and stuff. And so that was one of our biggest things when it came to expectations was, I get you don't like this, but just do that, get past it, be done. Not perfect, not anything, just get past it, and it worked out really nice when the expectation wasn't there that it had to be such an overachieving or such a high level of this, and he had to know it and then keep remembering it over and over and over. And I'm like, nope, we're not doing that. That's what our family did. We are absolutely not doing that. Just pass the freaking test so we can move on. Like, this is the biggest argument over things for no reason, something we're never going to discuss again, right? So it was those kinds of things when it would come down to it. I would be like, well, simplify it. That is the expectation, because that's what you've got to do to pass school. Like, it doesn't have to be so grand. It doesn't have to be such a big deal. It doesn't have to be straight A's and A pluses, and you have to be above everybody else. Like, I take all of that out of it. And he then excelled, and ended up on the honor roll in his senior year, and all those things from a learning disability and struggling and stuff to going to that, because when the expectation was totally removed, then he could be like, oh, okay. And then actually relaxed enough to make it easy. We were
Yeah.
just knocking our heads against walls with stuff for years because it was just like he didn't want to. And I'm like, I don't want to either.
Me neither, kid.
I'm right along there with you. And I really don't want to have to do this with you because that means I'm right back in school with you. I hated it the first time, you know, for different reasons. But it was really that. And then realizing immediately that the expectations that have been set on me is what we were kind of doing. And then I was like, oh no, screw that. We're not going to do that. Just pass the test,
Right.
and it was real simple after that. And it's amazing how much you'll thrive when you pull all those expectations off of what you're supposed to do.
Well, you
For
didn't
sure.
remove expectation. You changed them.
Sure.
You
Right.
made them different than what he was conditioned to believe they were.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to point out, right? Like you're not like, oh, I don't care, just do whatever you want. No,
Right.
that was the expectation. Now this is the new expectation.
Right.
But because it was different. It was different. It was something that was more comfortable for him and you, right? It was a
Right.
win-win. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Liz, you mentioned those voices, right? Those voices that we listen to. Are you familiar with internal family systems?
Yeah. Well, a little bit. Yeah. Family
Yeah.
constellations. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been learning a lot about that recently. I am super excited about Gabby Bernstein has a new book coming out called Self-Help. And there's a conference coming up that she's offering that I have a ticket for. I think it's next weekend. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to listen to her and absorb all of that. And I highly recommend it. I'll drop a link for it. But I think if you pre-order the book, because I think it comes out January 1st, if you pre-order the book, you get like a free masterclass or something. I'm not sure you can get in on the full conference thing anymore because that was like early on. But don't quote me on that. But I'll find it and drop a link. I highly
Yeah.
recommend learning about internal family systems,
Mhm.
about the voices that we hear them. They're that we all have that inside voice, right? That voice inside of us that's either positive or negative or both.
Yeah.
That kind of self parents. Sometimes it is a parent or a school teacher or somebody, but that's still in our head berating us
Oh, for
or
sure.
depending, praising us.
Yeah.
I was really fortunate. My mom was like such a positive person, like almost like toxically positive. Okay. Like everything had a silver frickin' lining. But it really serves me well as a person and as a child growing up, having that as a teenager, as an adult now that she's not here anymore, having that positive voice in my head going, you can do this. It may not be as easy as somebody who has longer toes, whatever. But you can do it. It might just be harder, you know?
Right.
But yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I
Yeah,
want to
for
give you a chance too to talk about you have an offer for our listeners.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd love to offer a half an hour consultation, either an introductory voice lesson or an introductory, can't talk anymore, vocal session with speakers, a half an hour for free. And all you need to do is email me and tell me that you're interested and and that you heard about me on this show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll drop her email. It's Liz, if you're listening and you have a good memory. It's Liz at lizhodgevoicestudio.com. Just
Yep.
email her and let her know you heard about the free 30-minute consultation on the podcast today.
Yeah.
And then next week's guest is Melanie Morgan. Melanie is a spiritual evolution expert. freaking love that. Whose journey is a testimony to the profound healing power of transformation. Having endured and overcome childhood trauma, long-term abuse, self-neglect, and the heart-wrenching loss of loved ones, Melanie has emerged as a beacon of resilience and divine feminine empowerment. Her path from brokenness to self-love has not only transformed her own life, but now guides others to their own path of healing and self-discovery. As the author of From Broken to Becoming and the creator of the Sheep How, a transformative quest that's redefining spiritual growth, she offers a unique perspective on healing. Through her words, teachings, deeply personal stories, she sheds light on the intricate journey from pain to purpose. Her work isn't just about love and light. There's plenty of those out there, right? It's about embracing the shadows, facing down the fear, and ultimately discovering an empowered self. And we've talked about this today. This is fantastic. I love how the universe lines up our guests, you guys. So,
Yeah. Cool. I'm
with
excited.
experiences, ranging from spiritual encounters to personal awakenings that she's not talking about conventional beliefs. She's offering a truly transformative approach to healing. Today, Melanie shares her gift of healing and divine wisdom with audiences worldwide. So she gonna be with us next week, you guys.
Yeah.
She connects deeply with others, helping them break free from pain and embrace a life filled with joy, purpose, and the courage to truly live. Her story is an inspiring reminder that the journey through darkness can reveal a life of light, authenticity, and boundless love. So she'll be joining us next week, and we will be talking about being a collaborative force, acting in the essence of changing the communities around us. I can't
Wonderful.
wait.
That
Yeah.
sounds great. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, me too, because we're all about collaboration over competition here. Thank you so much for being with us today, Liz.
My pleasure. It was wonderful.
Wonderful time.
And for
Yeah.
those of you who have been listening and not watching, you have missed an entire episode of Laura's fur baby asleep in her arms. She's completely out of it. I don't want you to say her name because I don't want to wake her up. But
It won't. It's Mia. But
Mia
yeah.
has been sleeping the entire time,
Yeah.
like a baby in her arms. So go back and at least take a peek at the fur baby. I mean, it's been awesome. So
did well. And that's my push to always be like, please rescue, because this is the wonderfulness that you get with animal rescue.
yes.
Joy.
Rescue.
Yeah.
So Liz, thank you again for being with us today. We really, truly appreciate your time and sharing your story. And we believe wholeheartedly that even if our stories just reach one person and make a difference, that this matters, that this podcast is worth listening to, that it's worth producing, even if just one person is positively impacted by the stories we share. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
All right.
I look forward to being on again sometime. That would be awesome.
That would be fabulous. We love having people back.
Oh, we do.
So yeah, speaking of guests, why don't we go ahead and talk about that? We didn't do any announcements yet, but we're always looking for sponsors. We're always looking for guests. We are booking out several months. I think we're about 6 months right now. So Liz, go ahead and book for next year. That would be fantastic. But yeah, and we're super excited. We're finally doing some housekeeping type stuff. But if you go out to ftcpodcast.com, you can see all the information for how to join the community, listen, tune in, be a guest, be a sponsor. Just get on the email list so that you know when things are happening.
Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely.
All right, guys. See you guys next week.